Hey guys, this is Adam Wright from Modern Primitive, just keeping things real. And what I've got for you today is a review on the Comparably website. So, I guess stating interests in advance, I am a former employee of a company who've done very well here. So, and I know that there is a huge gap between what they are saying and how their reviews look. So I've sort of approached Comparably, frankly, with a little bit of suspicion. So that's my kind of, I'm coming from a certain angle, so I'll be upfront about that. But coming from that angle, and also coming from the recent research I've done, so I've done a lot of research on psychology, I've done a lot of research on human behaviour, and I've done a lot of research on choice architecture off the back of Nudge and the work done by Richard Thaler. And I suppose from the Comparably perspective, it's a great success because in a fairly short period of time they have enabled themselves to be featured pretty highly up in terms of company awards. And my point has been, how have a company which I know is nothing like the awards, how have they done it? And so in other words, if Comparably can be gamed, how can it be gamed and why can it be gamed, and why is Comparably allowing things to be gamed? So it's all a personal perspective, from my own perspective, not necessarily perfect or correct, but just coming from a particular angle. But knowing what I know, some alarm bells do ring. And if we look at some awards, if we just hopefully click this, best places to work, 16 awards. What we notice is this website is kind of dripping in choice architecture, and what that means is it kind of leads you, whether you realise it or not, down certain paths. And what is difficult to do straight off the bat is if you find something that you don't like or that you think is wrong, it's very difficult to kind of call that out. Okay, so let's try and find some winners. And that was really the position that I kind of found myself in, because I saw some immediate problems and I found myself really unable to kind of highlight those. So my first observation, so forgive me my balance compensation. So actually, while before looking at a specific company, what is noticeable is just how much, just turn that off, just how much Comparably are kind of diversifying all their awards, and it's kind of getting to the point where so like you get an award for 11th place, 20th place, 50th place. So they've now spread themselves over so many categories. You pretty much get an award for anything. I'm sure if you tried hard enough. So my first concern would be just the sheer number of awards. Now, what is and where Comparably have done pretty well is what they've done is they've kind of got everybody drinking the Kool-Aid. So you hand an award out, and I guess it's irresistible for those people receiving the awards not to kind of say thank you very much. And so one thing they've done very successfully is kind of getting the award winners to kind of receive the Kool-Aid, if that makes sense. So where they've been successful is they've actually got companies, the company themselves, buying into the whole process. So here's a company I know pretty well, and I know absolutely without any doubt whatsoever that the company that is being portrayed here, I mean, look at this. I mean, it's just like, so there's almost so many awards, you almost become lost, and you have to believe that is deliberate. I mean, it just, so many awards, it almost becomes irrelevant. So the second issue that is concerning is, can I game this website? Well, if you look at a company I know well, IBM has 300,000 employees, and you look at the participation, 3,000. That's about 1%. So about 1% of respondents have led to these results. Now, I'm not certain, but I would imagine that such a company would probably have 3%, 4% new employees. So it only takes a small percentage of new hires to be kind of encouraged to leave a high result, and then you naturally get a good response. A clue here would be, here is the number of total ratings. So here is the number of employees, and this piece here kind of reflects how much of the questionnaire how many questions they answered. So again, a little clue here that you would suspect that in a new hire situation, you'd be more, or in certain cultures, you're going to be more inclined to fill out more of the form. And if we just pick a random similar company, let's find one. I mean, this is even worse, isn't it? Look, I mean, HP have got hundreds of thousands of employees, I believe, and yet their score is reflected on 263 employees. But look at the ratings. Now, if we compare that to IBM, go back again, forgive me. There you go, look. 83,604 total ratings. HP. There you go. So these are immediate concerns. Interestingly, the number of awards that they are promoting has just expanded beyond all, just in the time I've been following them, that it's really expanded beyond all kind of, let's go to the awards, apologies. I've lost count of the number of awards, and I say it's kind of, in the end, you have to believe it dilutes the, so let's have a look at these awards. I mean, some of these titles I think are subjective. I'm not really sure what these tell us. I'm not really sure about this. Another question that I've got, another serious question I've got, is that you would expect to see that there would be some and if there are there, I can't find them. So the questionnaires, who controls the questionnaires? What are the questions in the questionnaires? What are the lineage in the questionnaires? How have the questionnaires changed? Have they changed? And if they have changed, what has made them changed? You have to believe the way that this is now exploding out into a whole load of awards, that from a Comparably perspective, their perspective is the more awards the merrier, the more we can segment the market the merrier, the more winners the merrier. But I think from an employee perspective, choosing a company, again, being subjective, only what I know about a company that is near and dear to my heart, I have to say this reflects, you cannot take this in isolation and gain any meaningful kind of inclination on where to work, which is ultimately kind of why you would go there, isn't it? You'd want to kind of use this as a platform. I'm looking at this company, what it's like to work, and then you would kind of go there. And if you look at, let's go back to the company that I know best, IBM. Let's type IBM. So everything looks rosy here, doesn't it? And IBM are making some moves in some good areas, but IBM are old tech, and old tech is in deep trouble because old tech has been completely overtaken by new tech. And from a technology, IBM versus competitors, well, I mean, just look at this. I mean, this is absurd. There is just no, IBM, without saying anything inflammatory, has no reason to be there whatsoever. So what is this really saying? This is saying that 1% of IBM's employees think this, okay? And the 99% of the other employees, we just don't know. Now, in a way, it's clear and transparent what that is, but in another way, it isn't. Probably a really great example of this is if we look at some awards. So now, if I'm going to say best HR team on behalf of the board and possibly the shareholders, that might be valid. But from an employee perspective, that's just a long way away from how things are. IBM has shown themselves to be pretty unforgiving in terms of HR, and I've got personal experience of this. So best places to work. So what am I saying? So this is so segmented, fragmented. It relies on such a small number of employee participations. Perhaps they have to begin somewhere, that it's really meaningless and it's perhaps dangerous because it will drive some people. I mean, if we go back to that competitor guide, where did we go? Forgive me. Go back to IBM. We go back to IBM, the competitors guide. Let me just search them up again. Score, diversity score, cultures. Well, here we go. I mean, that is if you look at the majority of IBM's technology, which is a specific installed system, not easily upgradable, project-led, independent, extremely difficult to upgrade, extremely costly to upgrade, totally old tech. Now, they've made some good moves in terms of cloud, but they're behind companies like Microsoft. And if you look at the technology underneath IBM versus Google, Facebook, Amazon, and even to a degree Microsoft, it's chalk and cheese. I mean, that is incredibly misleading, I would suggest. That's only a personal view. I would be very worried that would give someone the perspective that joining IBM is a better shout than joining Google or even Meta. So now, what Comparably could do but elects not to do, and it's a little bit like Twitter. There is absolutely nothing stopping Twitter publishing the way in which it determines who it cancels, who it doesn't, and yet they don't. So why don't they? Well, they do that for commercial gain, basically. They do that for commercial flexibility, commercial gain, and it's the same here. My belief would be that if Comparably was serious, they would have complete transparency in terms of their questions, how their questionnaire changes, and what the rationale for their questions changing are. Equally, that they would have a rationale around the different segmentation of their different awards and explain why they're changing. And the fact they don't do any of that stuff means it's purely for their own commercial gain, that they don't want to share that stuff. So right now, as glam as it looks, it's actually, frankly, doesn't tell you very much. All it tells you in the case of IBM is 1% of the population thinks this. And given that 3 or 4% of the population, at least 3 or 4%, I imagine, change every year, they've just got to have some goodwill on a fraction of their new employees, and they get this score, and it's misleading. So therefore, I cannot recommend this personally as anything other than just a bit of what's the word? A bit of PR. With it's if it were food, it would be candy floss. Where they've done a great job, Comparably, is they've got all of the people, they handed the awards out, and the companies cannot resist the awards. So they've got all the companies on board. But yeah, so there you are. That's my review. Hope that's helped somehow.